We go. So welcome everyone to the Gemini full moon group body talk session. And my name is Linda Eels, and I am a body talk practitioner. And I've been doing this for, since 2004. That's when I started studying, and shortly after started practicing part-time, moved into it full-time in 2009. And that's what I continue to do amongst other things. So it's nice to see everyone. So when I'm doing these sessions, for people that are not familiar with the process, it's looking at what's happening in the moon cycle and astrology, and doing a balancing with those themes, those archetypal themes that are happening, and how they may be influencing us as a group, but also you as individuals. And so, yeah, so doing a group session, you'll take out of the session, out of the body talk session, what is required for you right now, what is a priority. And so, yeah, and oftentimes I hear a lot that it does resonate very deeply with people, and that is wonderful. It's probably part of what draws you to this. So thanks for joining. So what I'm going to do is, I didn't actually, sometimes I prepare slides, but I chose not to do that this time. And I'm just going to go briefly over some of the astrological points. So we've got this full moon in Gemini. It is opposite the sun, and the sun is very cozy with Mars in Sagittarius. And so when we're looking at that opposite in the chart, we're looking at what we call an axis, or a polarity. So Gemini, if you're not familiar with Gemini, or maybe you are, but Gemini is a very mentally active sign, and that's some of the archetypal energy. Its ruling planet is Mercury, and Mercury traditionally is the messenger of the gods. And I think an analogy you could use is, and especially this time of year, as we move into the holiday season, you can think of a post office and just how busy a post office is. And that's really the kind of speed and energy that you're looking at with Gemini, that there's like messages going in and out, and deliveries being made, and miscommunication often happening. But it is really very much about communication and information. And also because it's associated with the third astrological house, it's associated with our neighborhoods and our siblings, our cousins, like our neighbors. So it's very localized energy. It can reflect in, short trips. It can also reflect in longer trips, but not so much about like relocating, more about being a tourist and coming back to tell the story, because Gemini loves to tell the story. And that kind of energy it's very lighthearted. I was actually watching a Gilmore Girls. So I don't know if any of you have ever watched the Gilmore Girls, but to me, the Gilmore Girls has a lot of Gemini energy. It's very focused on, the mother and the daughter and their interactions and communications within their family, within their community, and it's very local, and it's very sort of quick-witted and fun and creative. And so those are some of the qualities that Gemini offers. So here we have this illumination, and it is a very mental energy. It's an air sign, and so air represents a lot of mental activity. So then, looking to the other side, we're looking at Sagittarius, and so Sagittarius is actually a sun, or a fire sign. It is also, it has to do with the mind, but it has more to do, if you wanted to look at the left, right. Mercury is definitely more left-brained and looking for sort of cause and effect and understanding linear logic, whereas Sagittarius tends to be more of a big picture thinker. It's often referred to as the guru or the teacher. Mercury and Gemini is associated with early childhood education, where it's like, I just, keep giving me more. I want to learn more. I've got, this little brain that's just can take in so much information. Whereas Sagittarius has to do with, more, I guess, more higher learning. And often, the archetypal teacher of Sagittarius is more about, I've lived it and you're not going to get this out of a book. So it's that kind of life experience. And within that, being the ninth house, the travel associated with Sagittarius is definitely long distance travel, experiencing other cultures and experiencing, if not travel as physical travel, but even mental travel in order to understand other ways of seeing the world and not looking at sort of one way, but really wanting to embrace and tolerance is a word that comes to mind. Like really, if you don't agree with something, you're still willing to be open to understanding it. There can be some shadow here on both of these. So with Sagittarius, because of the knowledge that can be accumulated within that archetype, it can be a little bit at times judgmental. So that's when perhaps like a shadow of a narrowing of a perspective can come in. So we have the sun in Sagittarius, which means that we're in that sign for the next month. And also Mars is conjunct the sun in Sagittarius right now. So we've got this opposition happening between the moon in Gemini, which is that high energy, and then you've got the sun and Mars, which can be, sort of saying, okay, it's like, we're at a time of the full moon where it can be a culmination of things, but it can also be with that Mars energy, okay, what's ready to change? What do I need to do? And so it can actually really promote a type of activity in us. And so it's just some interesting dynamics. There's another dynamic happening. It's actually a T-square where we have Saturn forming a couple of, you could say, harder aspects to both the moon and the sun and Mars. And Saturn is like, if you're thinking of a schoolyard, you've got, the kids out there playing, and then you've got Saturn, and that's the principal. So they're sort of keeping an eye on things. So this is where internally you may want to take action or be creative, but you're feeling like some restriction or fear, or, oh, I was going to break the rules, but maybe I should follow the rules, or, some of those sort of internal struggles. So just to give you a little bit of a profile with that. I'm just going to think if there's anything else I wanted to touch on. So I will say, the wonderful thing about these oppositions is that within each of them are similarities. So, when we're like looking at the guru or the teacher and it's teaching pretty deep, serious things from that Sagittarius perspective, sometimes it can get really heavy, and the mercurial, that light Gemini energy can come in and just crack a joke to break the ice. And so that energy can come up within the Sagittarius energy as well. And then, with Gemini, the understanding that, gossip as a shadow part of Gemini, noticing, yourself or others engaging in gossip, it can be lighthearted, as in that we have this, desire and curiosity to understand, or to understand what's happening around us, and therefore sort of listen and find out, because that curiosity is there, but then having the wisdom to understand that, sometimes saying something may have serious repercussions. So, there's a little more depth in that Gemini energy. So let's tune into ourselves with all that being said, and go into the session. And outside of that realm, if there's anything like anything that I've said that sort of brings something up for you. But then even if there's something going on at a physical or emotional level for you, just bring it in as something that it has a potential to shift and balance during the session. And I'm going to go into my Mindscape, which is my internal workshop, and just tap into the group energy. And I'm going to, invite the group in symbolically and just see what wants to come up for balancing. So when I talk about Mindscape, that is another BodyTalk course, and it gives you a structure, an internal mental imaginary structure to access intuitive information. That's really the short story on what Mindscape can offer. But so for me, I do most of my sessions using that as a tool for guidance and information. So when I invite the group in, we go into my library, which in some ways can represent knowledge and wisdom. But I'm actually like that there's no roof on the library. And so I'm actually looking at the stars, and what I'm seeing is the chart that I just spoke about, what's happening with the moon opposition to the sun and conjunct Mars in Sagittarius, and then Saturn, and I believe it's Saturn is in Pisces. And so I'm looking at these angles, these relationships, and the first thing that comes up is that there's actually a bit of a stuck quality to those relationships as far as our group, the energy goes, and how that may be influencing us. So the first priority is to actually do a vivaxis, a relationship balancing. And the relationship balancing comes between the sun in Sagittarius, the sun and Mars in Sagittarius to Saturn. And this needs to be balanced by 2 degrees. So in each of the sign, they're represented by 30 degrees. So that forms this, out of the 12, full circle representing what's happening in the stars. And so there was a Serbian astrologer that did something called degree theory. And what he did was he looked at each different degree, and each of these degrees correlates with the qualities of a sign. So when we're looking at 2 degrees, we're looking at some of the energy of Taurus, but then he also attributed other qualities to each degree based on his analysis of many, many charts. And so 2 degrees is a shift to more power, personal power. And so this balancing between the sun and Mars and the angle to Saturn is related to and really defined by your personal power. So this shift in 5-axis, and that starts to get the energy moving. And so this actually comes in like satellites. I'm just going to make some notes here. Okay, so this is linking into still using like the chart as a means of balancing. This angle is actually linking into the center of the chart, and which represents, in a way, well, it represents Earth, where Earth is. And so what's also coming up within this is a traditional 5-element chart that has the earth in the center. And that is the center of stability and stillness. And so that is what's coming in for centering and integrating this degree balancing. And then what comes up is actually to go into implementation, but the tap out is taking me into a circulation plug-in into the governing vessel 20, which is a acupuncture point at the very top of your head. And this point has many roles. It governs habits and patterns. It also brings clarification. And from that metaphoric traditional Chinese medicine perspective, it can help you move from one realm of consciousness to the next. And so that's how we're going to actually tap this first formula in. And so if you'd like to, you're welcome to find a point really at the top of your head. It may be a little bit tender, and just challenge that a little bit. And you can join me in tapping with a deep breath over your head, over your heart, and over your navel. Tapping the 3 brains to balance this shift within these luminaries and the archetypal energy and how that is expressed within you, to that personal power. And there's more coming up here as I go into the circulation plug-in. It's actually a circulation plug-in of spleen chi. And it's like a postnatal Qing or kidney essence. And there's really, I mean, there's probably more, but what I know about this is that there are, you know, the prenatal is the energy, the Jing that we're born with. And then there's the postnatal Jing that really we gather and replenish through our diet, our food, water, and then also our environment, our interactions, our socialization. So this is very specific circulation plug into that nourishing quality of this spleen chi plug-in. Okay. All right, so I'm just going to tap into the next part of the session. So there's a quality that's coming in, an umbrella, and it is the energy of the metal element. The traditional Chinese metal element, and there's further on that, it's its quality of refinement. And you know, the symbol, I probably mentioned this before, but the symbol of the metal element is a mine shaft with a nugget of gold at the top. And so, you know, this quality of refinement is kind of like chipping away at the stone to get to the gem. And so how that symbolizes, you know, releasing and clearing that, clearing the extraneous in order to get to the gems in our life. And it's like very much a daily process is what's coming in. So that is the, just make note of this, that is the umbrella. That's the quality that's informing the next part. And so within that, I'm linking into the outermost neocortex. So all of the cells in your brain. So if you think of your brain as a cell, so the cell has this outer membrane, and that outer membrane is continually connecting with the external environment. And so that's kind of how I'm perceiving um, this most outer area of your brain, and linking into that. So there's something about this processing and interaction and relationship with the external world, and and there's um, as it happens through your senses, so your sensory pathways, and there's this definition of all of your senses, all five senses, both subtle and physical, and a further definition of this clarification. Mhm. Link. And so this link is actually taking me almost to the next, I guess it is the next level, where I'm going into the 3 layers of protection around your brain. And I'm going to the first layer. I believe it's called the pia mater, and it's a very thin layer, and it's semi-permeable, so it relates to sort of the blood-brain barrier, what comes in, what goes out. And there's further circulation priority here to enhance the circulation within this area. And there's a consciousness, there's a consciousness definition here of illumination. And so this is brings in the satellite of the full moon. And then there's a parallel that's coming in to um, hydration within both of these areas. And so the hydration also is influenced by the moon, which of course, we're so connected to the Earth's cycles, the ebb and flow of, we think about the tidal changes and the flow of water throughout the earth, and the flow of water in our own bodies, and our relationship and connection to that. And so this hydration also relates to our connection and influence within that macro environment, and also into the cerebral spinal pulse, so the fluid pulse and the ebb and flow. And there's a real thing about like this clarification, this refinement. In this case, clarification is coming up within this hydration. And then linking into your hypothalamus. And so there's no details on the hypothalamus, but I do have a parallel formula coming in. And so the parallel formula, the first priority is to enhance lymphatic circulation within and from your brain through that lymphatic system. And there's as it supports your brain's detoxification, so its ability to clear toxins, both sort of naturally produced metabolic toxins, also heavy metal toxins. And so this, there's a satellite that comes into this, and it is Mercury. And so I'm getting that it's like part of that heavy metal, that mercury toxicity, but then also the energy of Mercury. And in this case, it's like this nervous energy that is coming in. This, yeah. So it's like this nervousness, this as well, this excitability. I knew the word would come. So this excitability, and then as well this the physical substance of Mercury. So supporting this detoxification process through this lymphatic circulation and drainage. And this is actually taking me into like a cellular level balancing, and I'm going into the cells, the dendrocyte cells that form myelin in your central nervous system, in your brain, and your spinal cord. So, and that myelin is the protective sheath. And so to focus in on a cellular balance and to this influence or impact of heavy metals on their function in forming protection. So there's a further satellite, and it's a satellite formula, actually, because it's related to balancing and strengthening the Wei Qi, that protective energy, that intelligent energy, also a discerning energy, specifically in an area in your brain, in the pons, which is part of the brain stem area, and the part of our autonomic nervous system, the locus coeruleus. So the locus coeruleus is like a hot button. It's like, that's how I'm seeing it, is this like little hot button that is, it really relates to our fear response, and it produces norepinephrine, which is like a stress response hormone. And you know, I shouldn't limit it to stress response in that it gives us energy. You know, it's another excitability hormone. So when we feel fear, this little area of your brain produces this fear chemical, and then it sends it throughout your brain and in many different links within your brain to put on an alert. And it within that, because it's a strong emotional center that sends out these messengers, it also plays a role in the fear memories that you hold. And just by virtue of that, it can then really lay down memories that then can be re-triggered. So this Wei Qi balancing is, again, it relates to, it's like a double whammy. So it relates to sort of this mercury toxicity and then mercurial toxicity. Mercury as in too much information coming at you. So like too much fear in the external environment. And so its job is to be able to actually discern, and that's part of what's coming up here, is supporting this the cellular balancing in how this has been playing some role in impacting the formation and protection level of your myelin sheath, and both in relation to information that perpetuates fear response, the beliefs that respond to that, that whole story, and then the modulating ability of this area. So strengthening that Wei Qi, and at that intelligence level, both at the physical and the psychic levels. Okay, so that is a lot. So we're going to tap that second formula out, and so, anywhere, if you feel like you'd like to put your hand somewhere on your head to represent that balancing in the pia mater, in the lymphatic circulation, and then as it links into the brainstem, that fear center, and that whole balancing within that, and those oligodendrocytes. Deep breaths with this. So the drained brain, promoting lymphatic drainage and circulation to support detoxification of heavy metals, and then going more into those myelin sheath cells, and the impact of toxicity on those, and helping to balance that with the support of this reset and Wei Qi balancing on that locus coeruleus area, that little fear center area. Nice deep breaths, continuing to tap. Oh, I'm just, as I'm tapping, I can see there's some chat go. Oh, yes, thank you, oligodendrocytes. Oh, okay. Oh, Augie's correcting me. Thanks, Augie. You're so mental element, Augie. Okay. All right. I'm just going to bring my hands to the sides of my brain. I'm just feeling a little extra tap here. Whenever I put my hands at the side of my brain, I always think of as if I were, gently cradling a baby. So just a really gentle, nurturing holding of my head with the focus on this whole balancing. Okay. All right. Wow, that's heady stuff, isn't it? Okay. It's just like, whoo, I've got all this like going on in my brain. Um, okay, I'm just gonna see or ask what is next. Okay. So the next thing that's coming in is the archetypal energy of the sun. Um, so this, is like the sun pretty much energizes and promotes growth with anything it's in contact with. I mean, all we have to do is look at nature and look what happens. So its role is to um, connect us to our purpose. It's associated with our heart and it's very energizing. And so that energy is coming in and it's actually linking into your heart. And there's a definition of your soul's purpose. And so I'm not getting details on that, but it's like, again, shining this light and it's within this Sagittarian energy. This energy of our aspirations. Um, you know, what's bigger than us? How might we be able to expand beyond where we are now and move into a new realm? And so really shining a light and illuminating that within your heart and really energizing that. And so this links up into the center of your prefrontal cortex. And it's like when I'm linking to the prefrontal cortex, it's part of your ability to envision this expansion for you, and then actually to not only envision it, but then bringing in more of the practical aspects of being able to plan. And then there's a real creativity that's also coming up as a reflection and influence of the third eye chakra within this area. So it's like this activation of this energy from the heart and the sun and that creative force linking into the creativity within planning, within envisioning, within your prefrontal cortex. Okay, so I need to parcel that, and then I'm actually linking into the back of your neck. And I'm linking into your cervical spine from the atlas down to the top of thoracic, so right down your neck. And what's also coming up is the sun's energy. So really this whole revitalization. And it's very much in the bones, so in the vertebrae themselves, and in revitalizing the mineral homeostasis, the ongoing cycle of calcium, of the osteoblasts and I can't remember the other ones, but clasts. So this rebuilding, sort of breaking down, rebuilding, and really to energize that within the chemical, the mineral homeostasis within your body. So there's like a, the mineral balance within your body. There's a continual ocean of interplay with these chemicals, particularly calcium. But you can't isolate calcium because it's in relationship with so many other chemicals and minerals to achieve that homeostasis. So it's like I'm sort of when I tap into this and bring in that sun's energy and see that really that strong life force and vitality for revitalization within that whole cycle, and then expanding into the awareness of the connectivity and homeostasis of your whole your ionic mineral balancing within your body. So I'm just going to tap in to see if there's other, like, sort of, if I need a technical term of what's happening here. I go so off the charts and then I'm like, what technique is this? But I know it's happening. So I'm just going to tap in a little bit more to that. And so there's the definition is grace. And so when the definition of grace comes in, it is like, it's the grace of a bird's head that has this beautiful long neck like a swan. And it's the grace of the movement of that neck, of the control, but the subtle movement and the flexibility that comes, like the fluidity of that grace. So that is the definition that's coming in to really support this revitalization and homeostasis within the bones of your cervical spine. So we're going to tap this last formula out. And if you would like to, you hold one hand over your heart and the other over your neck. And as you tap this in, when you breathe in, being aware of your posture, being aware of how the breath and the energy in your heart center, as it expands, brings support to your neck. And the gentle, subtle movements of the neck. And imagine that with the next breath, there's like an elongation and space created within your neck and all the vertebrae opening up and gently moving with each breath in grace. And that, my friends, is the end of the session. So thank you all for joining me today, and sharing your energy and vitality with me to do the session.
Thank you for the same from you.
Oh, you're very welcome, Huey. Thank you.
Thank you, Linda.
My pleasure.